this game. This is demolition.
And we have a slow clap this time from the audience. I think everyone is starting to feel, what we all feel. Like for Hans, I mean, the match is already over. It's kind of leave him alone, right? Like it's just a one-sided matchup here. And Hikaru, I think he's the one person who probably just says, no, let's continue this match because I'm feeling it. I'm taking all your rating with me.
And whether you're a fan or not, it's painful to get blown out because you feel like the match goes on forever. You feel like you look at the clock, 6 more minutes left, 6 more minutes left. You keep losing games. Hans wants this one to be over. He wants to get home and start analyzing these games and moving on to his next exploit. But Hikaru, let me tell you, he is enjoying every second of this. He wouldn't mind another 30 minutes of bullet.
Hikaru's, of course, playing great. We expect that from him. But Hans, he has played many awesome games. He had that queen sacrifice. That was a brilliant game where he first sacrificed a piece, then the exchange, and the queen f6, and just ended it. So that still might be the best game of the match. But unfortunately, he couldn't string together, say, 3 wins in a row. And we saw in the 3-minute time control, Danya, how many games did Hikaru win? He won 7 of them to just 1.5 for Hans there. So it just he wasn't able to get consistency, and that's because the players he's playing against are just at the absolute top of the game.
He played Magnus, and then he played Hikaru, 2 pretty difficult opponents. And like you said, he had some bright spots. Magnus himself complimented Hans on several fronts. Good positional understanding, good instincts, his opening preparation among the best, but hasn't put those skills together. And he's talked a big talk coming into this tournament. He has been humbled. And again, the question is, how will he approach that very difficult period, Robert? Every GM has had this period. You've played a bad tournament. You need to look at the games. I don't want to look at this game because Hans might blow another winning position.
Yeah, I just turned my head to look at the game, and suddenly that knight took a pawn, hopped around, and black is even on material. So Hikaru was in trouble. He was cramped. White was winning pawns. Now the material's leveled up.
I would have taken the bishop, maybe bishop b8 now if Hikaru feels frisky. But then rook to b4. I mean, typically the connected passers are better, but White's king is also further away. e4 check?
Yeah, e4 check. Don't blunder a fork with knight f7, but remember the bishop hits the white king. How are you going to stop c3, c2, c1?
I mean, you're asking questions that I don't have an answer to. Knight g4, knight f6. Even that doesn't work because the bishop can step in front of the rook. Don't tell me Hikaru was going to win this one too.
Goes knight f7. Where's that knight going to? Back to g5. So what does he want after?
h5, h6, h7. No, he's going to loot bishop f4.
Yeah, well, there's also bishop c7.
But knight e4, knight f6 is a perpetual because the king can't walk to d8 because of a mate on d7.
But what you were saying before, he could have played c2 because bishop c7 would always cut off the 7th rank after h6.
What I was saying before?
Well, this knight is just doing really a hero's load of work right now. Just going to check back and forth. The king goes d8, as you said, rook d7 would have been mate. That's a draw, which means we may get 2 more games.
You couldn't draw it up any better.
No, I think for Hikaru you couldn't because he didn't lose a game where he was in big trouble. And I thought Hikaru was black in this game because I've seen him play this on the black side so many times.
Yep, and typically the engine evaluates this heavily in White's favor. Bishop pair, better center, but you've got this weak pawn on d4, and Hikaru loves closed positions. I don't know if he loves... Oh, no, again, he's White. He definitely loves this closed position as well. And 2.5 left. Robert, a very memorable consolation match here at the 2024 SEC Finals.
Yeah, so many takeaways from this match, the matches we saw yesterday, and I'm just feeling so happy that tomorrow we'll get a whole nother match, and that's actually Championship Sunday. So a lot of people have been talking about, how will Hans fare against first Magnus, now Hikaru. Let's not forget that the championship match, the 2 players playing for the lion's share of the prize, first place overall, Magnus and Alireza back tomorrow.
You could not ask for anything better. There's been so much anticipation going into this weekend, and you almost want the anticipation to continue. It's like that present you've been looking for, and you don't want to unwrap it. But I don't think any of us have regretted what we've seen thus far, and the most entertaining part very likely still ahead. I mean, Hikaru doing things to Black's kingside here that I don't want to speak about.
You said entertaining, and suddenly there was a knight sack on g6. The black king went up and back, and Hikaru, he is doing well on the clock. He could take king h2. I mean, that's just such a Hikaru move. He wants rook b1, rook g1.
Oh, my gosh.
And he's only going to take the pawns on the king side when he's good and ready.
You read his mind. I thought he was just sort of, putting his old Russian schoolboy hat on. No, he is putting his I want to checkmate you in 3 moves hat on in 0 moves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing my hands up because when Hikaru does this, you just remind yourself he is the 4-time bullet chess champion. And you played him so many times, Danya. You can attest better than anyone. I think you played him more than anyone on the planet.
Probably.
He's just freakishly good.
I've also probably played more bullet games than anyone. I don't know if that's an achievement, but when you play Hikaru, it's a different category of skill, right? There's nothing to compare it to. Magnus and Hikaru are two very different players, and it's amazing to see how differently they have reached elite status in quick chess. And we will see if Magnus can reach elite status in the SEC tomorrow. But this is the last game, I think. Although the way these games have ended, I wouldn't guarantee it with 40 seconds left on the ticker.
I think this will be our last game unless there's a sudden checkmate or resignation. And right now, Hans with the white pieces, he's doing everything right. He would like to end on a positive note. Winning the last game, at least that's a good memory to leave Paris with. And he's just bringing all his pieces to the party. The knight on e5, the rooks and the queen all staring at c6. But then he backtracked because he's worried about pawn to h4. Danya, very strange pawn structure from the black side.
Well, every pawn is isolated, or the show looks that way. It's not the case. But if Hikaru could shift a couple pawns back, maybe to f6 and h6, he'd be okay.
Knight takes f2 was there. The blue arrow just popped in because the rook on b6 was loose. Back when that queen was, I wasn't looking at that move directly. But, Hans, maybe he's the one who needs to be a bit careful. But suddenly the black king also feels vulnerable.
Man, if he could put a knight on g5 and sack another queen, that would be the way to end the match. Hikaru wants to trade the queen. That's not what Hans wants. He should take this one, though. Or not.
Okay, so we see a queen trade. A4 is targeted, but f5 just dropped.
What a move. Preemptively preventing rook a2. Again, we get a rook on the 7th rank. Hans can take 600 pawns on the king side. It's not about the quantity of passed pawns, said someone I forgot who.
Okay,
best commentator in the business, I think.
Well, he did just take the d5 pawn, which encouraged a knight trade. And can black hold this, Danya? The knight will have to go back to a3 at some point just to stop the pass. Oh my goodness, the knight is just wrapping around doing weird things.
I've played games against Hikaru where I'm at 4 or 5 pawns, and that knight just circles around Pac-Man style. This is not an easy win, and look at the clock times. They've both got almost a minute.
But Hans, is acquitting himself quite nicely. He pushes his pawn. He wants to go g5, f4, get those pawns.
Rook d6.
Yeah, Hans is rushing. I mean, it's the last game officially. We see the timer is done. And so Hans, he should get this one, Danya, and he can at least end on a win. I know what that sigh means. It means, I know how this goes against Hikaru. You think you're winning, and suddenly he's able to hold.
And I talked about this in his first match, right? It's such a platitude that people like to say to generate fake entertainment. Like, oh, it's not over till it's over. It's not over till the score sheets are signed. Well, yeah, often it is over before the score sheets are signed. But Hans could not sign them any faster. He wants out. He wants to go home and look at these games. But he will take home 4th place and a good check. And Hikaru with a deflection, king h6, just clinging to that pawn with his teeth. He's still not going down, not even in the last game.
That's ridiculous. He doesn't want to lose this game, that's for sure.
That knight is rook h4, king g1.
Yes, the king escapes backwards. And rook h7 check, king g5.
Won't take h5. King f6, rook g4 takes, and that a-pawn.
Oh my
no!
Goodness. I mean, just
Black's playing for a win.
Every game.
King d4 to c3. Now, white can give up the rook for the pawn at the right moment, and connected passers often overwhelm the rook. So maybe Hikaru keeps his king on the king side.
Whoa, but he does that, and the white king steps up, and it looks like Hikaru's just trying to keep the status quo. It should not hold. But the natural moves are the wrong moves. That's what happens in bullet.
And it's what happens in rook end games, which always seem to be drawn. Hikaru with king f2 next. White's winning, apparently.
Yeah, because the white king is going forward now, g4 and f5, and black is not going to be in time to grab these pawns.
Well spotted by Hans. King to g4 is often the instinct to stay closer to the pawns. You actually want to vacate the path for the g-pawn. Hikaru realizes he's losing. Or is he? He is.
Yeah, those pawns are working together now.
Maybe he'll try rook c7.
Hans is a little bit too much time for one of those cheapos to work. And it looks like at long last, dare we say, Hans has this one under control.
I'm not saying anything just yet. f7, though, and king g6 is one of many ways, I think, to seal the deal. You could give up the f-pawn for the a-pawn and still be winning.
He said he cuts the king
Clinical.
up.
But not rook a1. I wouldn't allow the black king back into the game. Rook e3 is a try.
You're a funny one. You always live. And there it is, rook e3. But it could go f7. Queen with check.
I want nothing to do with the black. f7, rook e1.
Just pushing all those pawns.
How is this game still going?
Sometimes these bullet games last a lifetime, and this feels like, there it is, the last game of the match. Hans Neimann wins the last one.